every time I hit the floor, every time I got something to do with any kind of art, I tap back into that. And that's the rejuvenating factor. It rejuvenates me.
Greg, Clarence, thank you so much for the time. It is a genuine privilege to speak to both you. It truly is. This
Thank you so
film
much,
is,
brother.
oh, absolutely. This film is undoubtedly one of my favorite of the year.
Mm.
It is a beautiful piece, and I very much appreciate the chance to chat with you about it. Um, can we talk a little bit about how this came to be? Because in reading the notes, it just seems like it was an incredible blend of both of you meeting and coming together. How did Sing Sing come to be?
Um, well, I have kind of the spiel that we've been saying quite a lot of like 8 years ago and how I came across the firm. But I'll answer it a little differently because you want to center around Clarence and I because that's really and this it's almost like a cornerstone of this whole journey because I came across the project when after being inside of prison for the first time and kind of having my world rocked by seeing a young man raising a rescue dog inside of a cell and feeling the humanity there, I came across RTA in the middle of the night, this program, Rehabilitation Through the Arts, that Clarence was a part of on Google, and discovered this, original production called Breaking the Mummy's Code, this time traveling musical comedy represented in this Esquire article. But it really wasn't until the real theater teacher, Brent Buell, invited my creative partner, Clint, and I to a breakfast in his apartment 8 years ago to meet some of the men who lived it, that really everything, like was confirmed that I would give anything to be a part of telling the story. And at that breakfast, the first guy to walk through the door that morning all those years ago was Clarence. And he's someone who I've said this before, like I felt before he came in the room, he's got that kind of energy and presence, and it's that hard to define, like star quality or it thing or aura, but that's, I don't want that to feel like it's superficial because it was anything but. He has charisma that just leaps out at you. But he's also a very intelligent man, a very curious one. He's got a lot of depth, and he's able to like synthesize all these experiences from his life, the roles he's played, the performances, and he can communicate to you in his own like form of poetry that only he could have written, and um, he was just someone that I was just like, I don't know what this movie is gonna be, but you got to be in it, and all these years later, it wasn't just be in it, it was you got to star in it opposite Colman Domingo, who's one of our greatest living actors. And just to see those two go toe to toe is one of the great gifts of this movie.
Upon meeting Greg, man, it was Greg and Clint, man. It was automatic that we clicked in a way that could only happen through talking and communication and respect and trust. Those things was built through conversations that had absolutely nothing to do with the script, or may not have nothing to do with theater or the play. May just have something to do with how you see the world, or how do you view this situation, or did you see the news last night? What do you think about that? Those type of conversations built a bond that is that we could tell. You could tell that that's what it's going to be from the time it's formed. And the same thing with Colman Domingo. Once upon meeting Cole Domingo, I met him through Zoom. We're zooming, rehearsing, and all that, right? So here's this top of the line dude, man, top of the game. He pulls over somewhere in LA. I'm in New York. He pulls over on the side of the road to go through lines with me, bro. So that type of commitment, bro, if you commit like that, then I gotta commit like that.
Just seeing the two of you together on screen is incredible. So, I mean, you can see a real connection with you both, and I like the fact that you use the word trust because you feel that amongst everyone in the cast. You can sense this honesty and this authenticity, this people pouring their soul into these performances. It's just remarkable. Um, and I wanted to tap into that a little bit and ask you both. And I know, of course, Clarence, you were involved in RTA, but
Yes.
can you talk about the rejuvenating power of art? There seems to be such a
Mm.
healing and the power, the hope that it provides those who are looking for it.
Well, that's a question that I constantly ask myself because it constantly evolves. And where I'm at right now with is that it constantly does that because you tapping back into the imagination, and the imagination doesn't really have a lifespan or age limit. So you could go to anywhere in your imagination, any time of your existence. So we may be going back into years that I missed from expanding my imagination because I suppressed my artistic abilities. I suppressed it because it wasn't the cool thing to do. So now, every time I hit the floor, every time I got something to do with any kind of art, I tap back into that, and that's the rejuvenating factor. It rejuvenates me, revitalizes, and I know that it has the power to do that for others. So this is what I want to be an advocate of.
Yeah, I've heard it. Someone who saw our movie very early on, like before it really kind of got out there in the world, said to me like that it reminded them of something they lost a long time ago, you know.
Right.
And when I hear that, it does that kind of touches something in me because I think we can all reflect to like maybe the first time we discovered art and and how that just explodes in you and kind of makes you feel more alive in this world, you know, and like feels like you have words, you know, through however that form of artistic expression is to maybe to define for yourself the undefinable, you know. And I think the other really radical statement that the movie makes is that, and yet it's such a simple thing and it should be obvious, but I don't know that we really embrace it like we should, is that if art can exist inside of this facility, inside Sing Sing, behind these walls, behind all this razor wire, um, if it can happen there, it surely should happen everywhere, you know? And also that wherever people have access to art, they thrive, you know? And we want, not only do we want the message of just humanizing the people behind the walls and not seeing them as a number, but as a full person capable of growth and and beauty. We also want to remind all of us on the outside that we don't have to settle, you know, for misery. Like we can choose joy, we can choose to create.
And one of the things I think that comes out in this film is the idea of vulnerability. And I think, we see these men bringing themselves, and like you said, Clarence, the idea of tapping into this part of you. But that's got to be a difficult process. I think there's actually a line that says this is about sitting in the space and being vulnerable. That's something that men don't get to do that often.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how you build that trust to allow these men to be able to just tap into that part of themselves that they don't.
Well, that comes with a lot. The RTA, in RTA's case, I'm standing on the shoulders of brothers who already created the space. The space was already provided for me. I just had to acknowledge it and accept it and move into the space openly and bring all of me to it. So I had to come to this just like Clint and Greg had to come to this. You know what I mean? We had to come take our masks off and step in the room. So that's how it was for me too. I stand. It was a lot of brothers that was there. Shorty King was there. It was Roro was there. A lot of brothers was there that was shining examples of what it is to take your mask off and just be you. It was just something I had to tap into. It tapped into me. It woke up a familiar part inside of me because that is what attracted me.
Honestly, and you can see that it's so life-giving to everyone who's there. And one of the things, I know we're running out of time. Honestly, I really do appreciate it. But just as we wrap up, I'm wondering, one of the great comments in the film is that I've been playing a role my whole life.
Mm.
And just as we wrap up this place, I wonder for you both, like, do you think that's true, not just for incarcerated people, but for anyone?
I do. I do believe it's true. I do believe that we act out who we wish we could be and ignore who we really are until it's no one else to be but you.
Mm. That's great. Well, and I think there's also this sort of instinct to protect that you that's inside of you,
Yes.
because it's actually a very fragile and soft but beautiful part in you, you know, and the fear is like, if you unveil that, if someone weren't to let it back, it would destroy you. But yet, if you have the courage to unveil it, it's going to be the most special part about you that they'll see. And so that's the conflict within, is finally making that choice to have that vulnerability of expressing from the deep parts within us, and trusting that it's a glorious center of you that people deserve to see and that you deserve to share.
Honestly, to you both, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate your sharing, and I appreciate you sharing this film, because this is one of those films that's not only incredible, the great story, incredible performances, but is important. And I really believe that, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great conversation. With pleasure.